Hey guys, I'm Alicia. If you guys haven't read my lesson yet or haven't seen kind of what it's about, my lesson is for an agriculture education teacher or an ag teacher that is wanting to teach the students kind of about their daily necessities and where it all comes from. This is for a 3rd or 4th grade classroom. Right now I'm pertaining it to a 4th grade classroom. And within my lesson we're going to do kind of 2 different sections. The first one's going to be as a whole group where we do some discussion, kind of to get to know, to see what the kids know, what they're going to learn, and what they expect to learn. And then the second section is the actual lesson where they will get into small groups of 2 to 3, 3 to 4, depending on class size and teacher preference as well. So hopefully the students will use the visual representation of the web to explore the role of agriculture in their daily lives and understand how all the necessities in their life that they use on a daily basis can be traced back to a farm or a ranch within the United States. As a result of this lesson, I hope the students would be able to identify the main source of all the things they use on a daily basis, whether it's a clothes source or a food source. The students should also be able to identify how it is all like a web in the long run. The agriculture industry should be able to connect to the food industry, which should be able to connect to the clothing industry all in one way. So it's definitely like a web in the long run, and I hope the students identify that. So I guess right now I'm going to go ahead and talk about my lesson, and then I'll go over like some of the assessment measures and how to differentiate the lesson pertaining to your kids depending on what type of learner they are. So to start off with my lesson, I would go ahead and do like a mini introduction, and the teachers can change this however they would like. But for me, I would say many Americans do not know where their things come from that they use on a daily basis. These Americans are the same people that do not understand what agriculture is. Today we're going to talk about the things that we use on a daily basis and where we all think they come from. So at this point in time as a teacher, I would cut the board, the whiteboard or the chalkboard, into 3 sections to help us keep track of what our answers are for the next 3 questions we would discuss as a whole. And as a teacher, you can decide whether you want each kid to answer, or if you want half the kids to answer on this question and half on the other question, just so the students are staying involved in getting the full concept of what the lesson's all about, because it will help them in the long run for sure to get through the web. So the first question is, what kinds of things do you use on a daily basis? And this one should be easy for the students. However, if you need to prompt them, or if you just are listening to what they are talking about, you should get answers like food, books, clothing, paper, computers, water, and things like that. And while they're talking about that, go ahead and remind the students that all the items that they have stated that they use on a daily basis have either been mined or grown. And if the item is grown specifically for people, it is a product of agriculture. And so to remind them that in this lesson is kind of about agriculture in the long run. So then I'd move over to the second part of the board, and we would do, where do we get the things that we use on a daily basis? And this one might be a little more challenging for the students because they might have some overlapping answers and things like that, but you might have some answers like the grocery store, the clothing store, shoe store, and maybe some answers like factories, depending on how specific the kids want to be. When they start stating things like that, or like they come from a store, go ahead and remind the students that a store is a distribution center, and that's where we buy things that we use on a daily basis, and a factory is a place where the raw ingredients are put together to make the product that ends up in the store. So go ahead and remind them that throughout each stage, everything starts at the farm. So you might get something from the farm that you send to the factory to be put together and made into the ingredients or the product. Then it will be transferred to the store or the distribution center where people can go ahead and buy that for themselves at the store. And then the final question, which might be also more difficult, is what is agriculture to you? And here this might be more complicated for the kids, especially if they don't know a lot about agriculture. So go ahead and prompt them a little bit, and if they still don't understand what your point of agriculture is, I did do a vocabulary list in my lesson plan, so you can go ahead and read off. The first definition is agriculture, so you can go ahead and read off that to them. And then underneath agriculture, I have fabric, farming, flowers, food, and forestry, the 5 F's. So that is mostly what agriculture is. So go ahead and talk about the 5 F's: fabric, farming, flowers, food, and forestry, and how they are all related to agriculture in some way. And keep them engaged enough where they can remember that agriculture or the farm or the ranch is the main holding spot for that. So then after that, I would tell the students that we're going to begin our farming webs, but we needed to talk about the multiple different farms really fast. So I would tell them that there are cattle ranches for beef and leather, dairy farms for milk and anything that uses milk, orchards that grow apples to make juice and apple pie, pig farms to help put the pepperoni on their pizza or the bacon in the morning, grain farms that grow corn syrup for soda or wheat for the bread, cotton farms for all the clothing we wear, and then tree farms for the paper and our books or that we write on, and then landscaping as well. Let the students know that they're going to be making a farm web now using the different types of farms that we had just talked about, and then the items that come from those farms that later on go through the factory stage and then all the way to the store. So as a teacher, I would probably split up the students into groups so it would be more of a diverse group. However, it is teacher preference and how she teaches her class. So that is totally up to you how you split up your group. As the kids are split up, have them go grab a plastic baggie, which in the plastic baggie will be string to cut into pieces so they can tie their web together using string, along with the different pictures that I have in the lesson plan. You can see the farm, you can see the corn, cows, different things like that. Those will all be cut up and put into baggies so the students are already prepared once they sit down. Once they sit down, have them bring out all the stuff out of their baggies and go ahead and have them start doing their farm web. From there, the students will be able to start, but remind the students that the pictures that are things that are grown or raised on the farm, so that they'll go closest. So we'll start off by putting the farm picture in the middle, and then from there they can grow out like a web. As you're walking around as a teacher, just make sure kind of that they're putting in the pictures in the right area at the right spots, as well as discussing with their classmates or their group members, I should say, about why I put this picture here and maybe why this picture should go next. Things like, well, here's a dairy cow, so I'm going to put milk next to it because milk comes from dairy cows. So things like that, remind them that they do have to do a presentation at the end where they stand up, show their classmates the entire web that they had finished, and to tell the students why they had put each picture where they did. So there again, making sure their discussion is key, and to help them, remind them that things go in order when it comes to a web. When all the pictures are placed correctly, have the students talk about their other items that could be added to the farm if they finish early. There is quite a few, so if they have questions, this is a great time to be asking, or they could go ahead and just discuss some things. And then as a closure, so after they do all that, then as a closure, I would have all the students come up with their webs and tell why we put what we put where they put it. So go ahead and tell them, from the farm we put this, from that we put that. So have the students discuss that, and that was one reason why we had discussed in the main group, is because they would be able to do a better job up in front of their classmates. After they finish that, I'd have them drop those on the ground, go sit back down and we would read If It Weren't for a Farmer by Alan Fowler. And this book kind of discusses about without farmers, where would we be? And in the end, it kind of tells you, like, without farmers, we truly would be naked and hungry. So, and then at the very end, I would finish off with just a short phrase of, all in all, there are many jobs opportunity in agriculture and farming. Agriculture provides all of our basic necessities. So remind the students to remember that all our daily necessities can be traced back to a farm or ranch, and when it was first produced in the first place, where it was first produced, sorry. And make sure that they realize that there are a lot of farms around the United States that are producing to help us be where we're at today. After they get done with the webs, put away, kind of give them a little break. After that, have the students come back. If you have time within your lesson, go ahead and do it. If not, this will be assignment for home. It would be have the students write a short reflection paper about kind of what they learned and what they would like to know if they could ask one question to a farmer, and how it could be connected to our farm webs if they had certain questions for the farmer. So like I said, after I got done with my lesson, I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of assessments for your measuring as a teacher. So as you walk around during the lesson for the formative assessments, make sure the students are connecting the strings right to the right pictures, and make sure the students are discussing like we talked about in the lesson, just so they're more prepared when it comes time to discuss their farm webs in front of the entire class. And then for the summative assessments, which takes on after the lesson, will be the students will get to present their farm webs, like I said, to the entire class. And this is where as a teacher, you'll make sure that they're connected correctly, and if they're not, go ahead and tell them why and how they could change it in the long run. And then as well as have the students write the short reflection paper for everyone to read, or if they don't want to read them, that is fine too. You could just have them turn them in. They could answer questions like, what are you wearing that came from the farm? Is there anything that you think does not come from a farm? If you could know one thing about the farm and how the things you use are made at the farm, what would it be? So that's at least 3 paragraphs there, and intro and conclusion would give them at least 5 paragraphs. So, and then there, for differentiation of the lesson, students who are visual learners will probably benefit from this a lot, as well as I do have the vocabulary list the students can have in the front of them, so they can kind of look at that, go off of that, how they could go from the farm out in their webs. Students who are kinesthetic learners and have to learn by doing something will also benefit from this, because they're going to be doing hands-on things, and they'll be able to look at different things from the vocabulary sheet to the correct web sheet to discussing with their group will help a lot. Students who excel in this activity, they'll either be able to start their essay at the very end if they feel they're ready for their presentation in front of class, or they can go on the computer and find a fun fact or some other fact that they would like to share with the class while they did their class presentation. And finally, students who are struggling will be able to work one-on-one with the teacher, just so they understand the basic needs of where all their daily necessities come from, and how important it is to remember that they all start at the farm. So in the long run, I think that's it. There again, that is a lesson plan for 3rd or 4th graders, and it is talking about where all the necessities you use on a daily life come from. Thanks.